I've always been an active person, so played a lot of sport, played a lot of rugby, um, mountain bikes, skiing, riding motorbikes, all of those sorts of things really. Not a sort of person to sit still. That's how I would best describe me and our family before the accident, yeah. I'm fairly obsessive about all things that are petrol powered, be it the lawnmower or cars or whatever, but bikes are a definite passion of mine. So the day of my accident, I was out on an observing ride, so I was being an observer in my volunteering role with the IM. We'd had quite a nice ride out to a stop, so we'd gone about an hour and a half or so. Got a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea, and we'd spoken about how the associate, the person I was observing, had got on, and how we can then plan the ride on the way back. And then on the way back, the associate was starting to put into practice some of the things that we'd spoken about. He went around the left-hand bend, and as I went to tip in, the car coming the other way, which on any other day, any other time, I'm sure would have been absolutely fine. The driver unfortunately lost control of the vehicle. The back stepped out on the car and come round on her, and ended up making contact with me. Luckily, was chucked onto a grass verge. At that point, I tried to stand up and couldn't work that out, but I sort of patted myself down, and my foot was pointing in the wrong direction at that point. So that was obviously shocking. The consultant had about 3 or 4 looks basically at the injuries, and during that process, effectively parts of my foot had started to die off, not just soft tissue. I had multiple breaks to toes and things, so I knew at the very least that some of those were gone. But when more of the foot started to die off, the conversation really became about what the best outcomes would be, with multiple avenues of either reconstructive surgery or amputation. And when we started talking about time scales, we were talking about multiple operations over a long period of time. So as we talk now, my daughter's 6.5, she would have been 4.5 at the time. We're talking about a significant portion of her life. So for me to do it there and then I can just focus on my rehab and use of prosthetics, and basically trying to get back to as close to as possible to where I was post-accident in the shortest possible time frame, was really the goal. And that's it, like I say, on balance, why amputation became the better option.
So we work with an organisation called For Trauma for Patients, who operate at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And I was asked to go and see James, and I attended the hospital, and he'd not long had the amputation. And I think he was looking for reassurance that he'd have support in order to try and improve his level of function. So my job when I go into these meetings is to be realistic about what the challenges might be, but also to give that patient, that client, a sense of optimism as to what can be achieved.
Initially, the one thing I will say is that Andy and his team took the time to understand what my life looked like before the accident and what my goals were post, and exactly how close to my former lifestyle that I wanted to get back to, but also then planning for the future is what I'd say.
Injuries like this don't just impact the individual, they impact the whole family. A lot of changes had to be made in order to ensure that life continued to go on. There was an impact on childcare, an impact on home life generally, and part of our job is to make sure that we get the evidence to be able to establish exactly what's going on in reality when the case is submitted to a compensator, and in some cases ultimately valued by a court.
When I left hospital, I was unable to be discharged to our old house. The problem that we had there is there were multiple steps. We had a steep driveway, interior layout, and we had a tiered garden. So both immediately with trying to mobilise using crutches and a wheelchair, and longer term, it wasn't going to be suitable. We'd had advice from an occupational therapist who'd highlighted that as well, with regardless of level of adaptation.
Once we're instructed, we had to kind of set about trying to identify alternative solutions for him. Those comprised of exploring the rental market. We obtained a property search report that gave us an overview of the available properties that might be available for rent. But ultimately, James wanted to be in and around family, so he decided that the preference was to move into his in-laws' property. And part of my job was to open a dialogue with the compensator and try and secure interim payments, which we were able to do. And James was able to use that money in order to adapt the property to make it suitable in the short term, whilst we explored more suitable long-term options.
What we were then able to do with, again, gaining interim payments from the other size insurers is then look for a property that was going to be suitable for us long term, and hopefully will be our forever family home.
Part of our job as lawyers, working in conjunction with a case manager, funded by a compensator, is to make as much provision as we possibly can to help that individual achieve a good outcome and a good recovery.
Private prosthetics for me have enabled me to recover and get back to a lifestyle so much faster than I could have done with the NHS provision. I want to be as active as possible, as quickly as possible, go mountain biking, go skiing, take the dog for a walk, be active with my daughter, all of those things. I had a provision through my insurance provider, but when I spoke to them in comparison to speaking to Andy at Higgs, it was light and day. There's a massive difference between the services and how the two present themselves. There's support that I'll require as I get older, which no one spoke about through my insurance company, but in speaking to Andy at Higgs, that was something that was spelled out, and kind of it was a bit of a light bulb moment into go, right, okay, well, I didn't understand necessarily that would be the process and how to access that.
It's absolutely imperative that somebody supporting somebody who's had such life-changing injuries has the requisite level of experience. They need to have access to the right experts who provide those reports that are ultimately going to be used to value the case. The most important thing is, whilst the immediate focus on immediate provision and support is absolutely imperative in terms of making sure that the individual has access to all that they need for the here and now, the provision needs to continue long into the future. And part of the job of any lawyer who specialises in this work is to make that long-term projection with reference to the expert evidence.
Andy and the team definitely got the balance right. Obviously there's the nuts and bolts of the legal side, but also having a personal approach. It's going back to the life that we had before. It's being active outdoors, it's being outside with the dog and taking the dog for a walk, back to mountain biking, to skiing, to family holidays and creating memories together as a normal family unit, and not letting what's happened define me or us as a family, and just concentrating on that longer term.